Hello, I'm Cindy Shelton, and I'm your applied math teacher. I want to go through the final study guide with you to help you get ready for your exam. I promise everything that's on the exam is on the study guide, so if you know this information, you should do very well on the test. We're going to try to go through it a chapter at a time or a segment or so at a time, so this will be chunked up into segments, and so if you can look through all of these in your preparation, that would be good. I also wanted to just overview what we're doing in this class. This class is applied math, so you have lots of different applications. It's not just an algebraic course like college algebra, just a bunch of algebra. This has a broader spectrum of different application type problems in math. So I hope you've enjoyed it and learned some things that you can use in your everyday life. Okay, the first chapter is problem solving, which we all use in our everyday life. These problems may not be the exact same things that you run into every day, but hopefully will help you have a strategy to think through some things. Then chapter 3 was logic, trying to use symbolic language and make truth tables. We only do one thing on chapter 5. 5.6 is the exponent rules. And this chunk right here kind of is the algebraic section. So exponent rules. Then chapter 6 is algebra. Chapter 7 might be considered what you would see in an algebra class as well. It was graphing and solving systems. Then we move to the metric system in chapter 8. We work on percents in chapter 11. And then the last chapter we do is statistics. So I'm going to try to overview those. Now keep in mind, I won't be able to explain every single detail of all of those chapters in this review, but just touch on the highlights for the test. So hopefully you'll read the rest of the chapter on Math Excel. All right, so chapter 1, problem solving. Questions on your study guide. We've got on the board for you. The first one says finding the next number in a sequence, finding the pattern. So 9, 16, 25, and 36. Looking at that pattern, it looks like those are your perfect squares. If you notice, 9 is 3 squared, 16 is 4 squared, 25, 5 squared, 36 is 6 squared, so the next one should be 7 squared or 49. And there's no magical way of finding that, it was just a matter of looking for a pattern. Number 2, there is a strategy in this type of problem. This is called a proportion. It says we have a shed that is 8.5 meters high that casts a shadow that's 5.7 meters long. Now, how long is a shadow cast by a person that's 1.9 meters tall? There are some assumptions in this problem that we're the same angle of the sun and that it is a proportional type of problem. So if you think of it like this, we've got your 8.5 meter high shed and its shadow, 5.7 meters. So we've got a 1.9 meter tall person. We want to know how long would their shadow be. So we're assuming this would be a proportional situation. You had some other problems on your homework where you would have map distances, and it would say you have so many inches represent so many miles on a map, proportional things like this. So anyway, you can set this up. 8.5 is to 5.7 as 1.9 would be to the unknown amount. So a proportion. 8.5 is to 5.7 as or equals 1.9 is to what? So if you can set up a fraction equal to a fraction, there's a principle that says the cross products have to be equal. So 8.5 times x has to equal 5.7 times 1.9. Okay, I'll need to use my calculator to work that out. I'll have that out. Okay, so that's 10.83. And then a little algebra here. We do need to divide by what's with the x. Anytime we have this set up, we divide by the coefficient. So divide out 8.5, keep the balance, do both sides. That cancels that out, leaves x. It really leaves 1x. You may be just in the habit of doing this and saying that wipes that out. But actually what it does is 8.5 divided by 8.5 is 1. So it leaves 1x, and we just always just say x. So x equals, so we're able to solve that, so 10.83 divided by 8.5. It doesn't come out exactly on the dot, so we'll need to round to whatever your study guide says to round to. Now remember, when you take your test, it's exactly the same. Directions will be given. Let's see, so it does say to round to the nearest tenths place, so we need to know where tenths is. After your decimal point, that next place is tenths. So the 7 says to round that up to a 3, so it should be 1.3. So we can expect that a 1.9 meter tall person would have a 1.3 meter long shadow with this setup. And then I noticed number 3 is pretty much a repeat of that question, another practice of using the proportion. We have a 9.8 meter shed to a 6.9 meter shadow, and then another 1.9 meter tall person, how long is the shadow? So it was the same setup, so just repeating that again, 9.8 times x equals 6.9 times 1.9. So multiply 6.9 times 1.9. So you get 13.11. Again, a little algebra here, that's multiplication of x. So to do the opposite, divide by 9.8, cancel that out and leave just the x, or 1x equals whatever you do to the left side, you have to do to the right side. So divide the other side by 9.8 and round to the nearest tenths. This time the 3 says not to round up, so it's just 1.3. Excuse me. Okay, number 4. Now this is something that you would probably do in your everyday living. I think this has happened to all of us. We have some sort of deal where we can either try to pay something off all in one chunk. This is a $900 television that this person is buying, and they want to know how much will it hurt me, whether I just can come up with the $900, or if I make the payments, what's the difference in the total price. So in this scenario, the deal is you can pay $150 up front, and then make a $100 payment a month for 14 months. So it sounds kind of nice because it'll be easier on you to come up with $100 a month for 14 months, but actually how much money are you losing is the question if you take this deal. So $150 up front plus $100 for 14 months, that's $1,400, plus $150 is $1,550 total that you would be paying for the TV with that deal. So how much did you lose on that? $1,550 minus what would have just been a $900 TV. You had to pay $650 extra dollars, the difference if you make the payments. Almost buy 2 TVs. All right, and number 5, the last one from chapter 1. This is another thing that you would do in your everyday living, is try to figure out your gas mileage on your car. It says that you had a previous reading and you remember to write this down, that you were able to figure out your miles that you had driven since your last fill up of gas. You had 82,803.60 miles on your odometer, and then when you stopped to get gas the next time, it read 83,034.60. So the number of miles that you've driven is 231. So that's the first step. You want to subtract your odometer readings to see how far you've driven. And you want to know what, you were able to buy 17.5 gallons of gas fit in your tank. So how was your gas mileage? So really this is a division question. You figure out how many miles you've driven, how much gas that you bought, and you divide that. So 231 divided by 7.5, that's a miles per gallon question. When you divide, it will figure out how much per 1 gallon. And that the per usually means division, so division problem. So 231 divided by 17.5, you can use your calculator, is 13.2 miles per, now that would be 1 gallon, or miles per gallon.